Good morning. Prince Harry has had his day in court. He has been questioned, and I wanted to raise some of the contradictions that I have noticed in his evidence, but that nobody is really talking about. So, how it works is his main evidence, or the evidence in chief, is given by way of his witness statement, and then he's cross examined by the newspaper's lawyer to test his evidence. So, the first leak from Harry's camp was a complaint. It said that Harry's the newspaper's lawyers only took 1.5 hours to do their opening statement when they had said they were going to take 1.5 days. And this meant that Harry ended up giving evidence earlier than he anticipated. And the complaint and the whinge was, this is a dirty tactic to catch Harry off guard. But then in the same breath, the same source reveals, oh, but Harry has been preparing for this for 3.5 years, so he is ready. So what was the point of that? Ridiculous. Anyway, so Harry starts giving evidence, and he has to be warned by the judge multiple times to stop being argumentative. The judge says, you are not the lawyer in this case. Your lawyer will provide just some notification. Your lawyer will do the legal arguments. You just need to answer the questions and give the facts. So getting on to the facts. Here are some facts that I've just picked out as being interesting because I find his testimony quite contradictory on these issues. Now, I have said in a previous video that I think the strongest point that is against the newspapers when it comes to the stories about Harry was that one story where they were managed to get the seat number. Apparently, they managed to get the seat number of Chelsea Davy, his then girlfriend. That would be something that somebody would need to look up in the records of the aeroplane, or of the air company, and that presumably at the time would have been illegal to give that information out. So that is for me, so far from what I've heard, the strongest point. Anyway, so one of the things is that Harry was talking about this journalist, Katie Nichols, and he's quite defensive, and he says, well, she attended some events where my friends and I were, but I didn't even know that she was a journalist. Somehow giving the impression that she was sneaking in or something like that. Of course, that was part of her job. She was what's called the diary journalist. Her job was to follow the diary of Harry and to go to the places where he was. And he would hang out at certain nightclubs, and it was well known where he would be. So that's his point. He didn't know she was a journalist, almost giving the impression that he might have let some things slip to her because he didn't know who she was. But then here comes the contradiction. He says his friends would never ever have spoken to Katie Nichols about anything relevant because everybody knew that she was a journalist. So first, he didn't know that she was a journalist, but everybody and all his friends knew. Then the second thing, so Rebecca English, which is another journalist, she was also in his social circles and went to the events. And first, he almost tries to denigrate her by saying, oh, no, she didn't travel in my social circles. She wasn't at social gatherings that I went to. But then, in the next breath, he's saying, oh, Rebecca English, she was around so much and came to so many of the events that I was at that I felt like she was stalking me. Okay, make it make sense. Then he talks about the article, the newspaper, hiding behind this word sources. He says, oh, the Daily Mail, they would, if they got information from illegal information gathering, they obviously weren't going to say that in the article. So instead they would use this word sources. They would say, oh, the information was obtained from sources. And this was code, basically, for they got it illegally, but they're not going to tell you they got it illegally. And so this word sources is somehow nefarious, which I find quite hilarious because information and press releases are frequently put out to the newspapers favourable to Harry and Meghan, and this information always comes from sources close to the Sussexes, which PR gurus tell us means basically that was Harry and Meghan giving that information. So this word sources is crazy, that he takes issue with it. Then, this is a real gem. He says that the information in some of the articles was so private that he would never have revealed it casually, and he would only have revealed it to his most closest and most trusted friends. So this was the most private and sensitive information that he would never have revealed casually. Contrast that with, his book Spare, where he put all sorts of confidential and really sensitive and personal information into that book, like losing his virginity behind a pub to what he called an older woman. And he gave so much detail of this encounter that the lady in question, was easily identifiable to their social circles, and she actually had to come out and preemptively say, yeah, I was the person that Harry's talking about in that part of his book. But she had never told anybody for all those decades. She'd never said anything. So here he is sniveling and whining about the most personal information that he would never have shared with anybody. And look how he's sharing everything like that in Spare. So I don't for 1 minute believe him when he says he wasn't a blabbermouth. Plus also, and I'm surprised that the lawyer didn't go there, because it's in his book Spare, where he basically says he was baked for a decade. How does he remember what he told to whom if he was on drugs? All of us have probably, in our lives, at some stage or other, had a little bit too much to drink. And, when you're on substances, it loosens your lips, especially in your younger days. And that's fair enough. But yeah, he would never have revealed that. It's not believable. Then also, one of the issues that he raised in his cross-examination, which I thought was really odd, was he was skillfully questioned, and the question was about the timing of bringing this claim, and he said, this is Harry, he says he admits that the reason for bringing this claim because he got more and more angry about how the media was treating Meghan. But that's got nothing to do with this claim. This claim only relates to what happened, 20 years ago, well before he met her. So that is just really odd to me that he would admit that. So it's basically he wants to shut down the media now for things, and he's using this spurious claim for things that they did decades ago. Okay. And then he complains that the Mail, this is the newspaper, had provided very private information about him to commercialize and to make money off him. Like he made money off private information in Spare. It makes no sense. Make it make no sense. And then he also says something that's very interesting. He talks about the social circles that he was in were not leaky. His people wouldn't leak. His friends wouldn't leak. But if he thought they were leaking, then he would cut them out of his life. So that's so contradictory. Either it was ironclad and there was no leaks, or he was suspicious and people may have been leaking. It's crazy. Then one of his other things was he got very defensive, and he said, oh, well, the other newspapers did illegal tactics, so your newspaper must have done illegal tactics too. Okay, that's like saying, Jeffrey Dahmer might have had a couple of brothers, and because Jeffrey Dahmer ended up being a serial killer, the brothers must have been serial killers too. It makes no sense. And then at the end, when he was re-examined by his own barrister, his barrister was really pushing him emotionally, pushing him. And then this is where we get to the part of he breaks down on the stand, and I don't know if he really is crying or if he's fake crying, but he puts his hand to his face and his voice seems to catch. And his barrister has been pushing him to talk about Meghan and the effect of the media coverage that it's had on poor Meghan, and how it's made him upset and worried for his wife, blah, blah, blah. It's totally irrelevant to this case. But his barrister pushes him till he gets to this emotional breaking point on the stand, which I thought was really odd. Based on my 3 decades of legal experience as an attorney, I just thought that was very odd because they're not in front of a jury, they're in front of a judge. And I don't know, if I was the judge in that case, I'd be going, why are you so focused on Meghan 20 years after the date of this claim and how the newspapers may or may not have treated her subsequently? That's got nothing to do with this claim. And for my legal mind, I'm thinking, if you have to rely on Meghan now or subsequently being upset, or Harry being upset and worried for his wife all these years later, when there's no suggestion of illegal activity by the newspapers now in recent history, that seems to me to undermine his whole historic case, because if his historic case was strong, they would be focusing on that and not on Meghan crying and making Harry cry on the stand because of he's worried for his wife. There's a disconnect there, and I don't know what his lawyer was thinking. But having said that, his barrister is way more high priced than I am. His barrister is way more experienced in the British courts than I'm not experienced in the British courts. I don't practice in Britain. So there must be method to the madness, but I'm not seeing it. So if you can tell me in the comments what the method to the madness is that you think is happening there, that would be useful. Anyway, my friends, I will keep you updated, and I will be going back to doing some more criminal cases as well in the coming days and weeks. Have a fantastic day.